Hey guys, Angelo Christian here today with another great edition of Learning Hub. Today we're going to be talking about one of my favorite reads, Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. If you haven't heard of this book, you got to check it out. It's an awesome book on negotiation, selling, and if you're in selling, I definitely recommend that you check it out. When I read it, I was blown away. There's so many good takeaways in here. I'm going to be talking about some of my favorite ones. And also, stay tuned. Today I'm going to be giving away a free dinner for Saltgrass Steakhouse for answering a couple questions from the book. So stay tuned and stay in because I want to give away those free dinner tickets. But yeah, if you're wanting to learn more, that's what this is about with Learning Hub. Why do we do this show? Well, because one of my heroes, one of my mentors, Warren Buffett and Bill Gates, they say the more that you learn, the more that you earn. And, Warren Buffett still to this day reads 500 pages, and so if he's reading, we need to be reading, we need to be learning. And so I can't tell you how important it is to learn and constantly be a learning machine to better improve your life. So this was a phenomenal book. And if you're in sales, you're trying to negotiate, or whatever the case may be, definitely check this book out. It's incredible. Chris Voss was an FBI negotiator. Talks about a lot of his life in the book and things he had to negotiate hostile situations with kidnapping. And you can apply some of these fundamentals and these tactics to, daily sales, whether like for our mortgage company, we sell people, we're trying to convince them and persuade them and influence them to buy a home, or you could be trying to sell pharmaceuticals, you could be selling a real estate course, you could be selling supplements, it could be in your ad copy, it could be face-to-face. There's so many different things. And so, the fact that, you look at 70 to 80% of the millionaires and billionaires on this planet master sales, and you really got to get this down. I can't tell you, like on my sales floor, how many times that I have to coach new people because they're not saying things the right way, they're not following the proper protocol, they're blabbing their mouth, and they're not really understanding their customer. Then they can't deliver, and they never close the deal. Okay, one of the biggest mistakes that salespeople make is they talk too much. The customer should be doing 80% of the talking, and you need to listen. You need to shut your mouth and listen to the customer and ask them key questions so that way they can reveal themselves to you and then you can close them. All right. So that's one of the big things that Chris talks about is, first off, one of the first key takeaways is you need to listen and listen intently. Really, really listen and understand what the counterpart, the other side is saying. And like Stephen Covey talks about, seek to understand and then to be understood. So you need to listen very carefully to make sure that you can hear exactly what they're saying, and you're going to use this later in the conversation or the negotiation. So the first thing is you want to listen, okay? And you might say, well, big deal. I know that. Well, you don't know that, because if you knew that, you'd be closing a lot of deals. And because a lot of people don't do that, I see it every single day. And to really listen, not just to agree and shake your head, but understand what the person's talking about. The other thing that that he brings up that I think is crucial is a lot of people think that they're great salespeople and they can close the deal just because they get somebody to shake their head and say yes. And you hear a lot of the salespeople, a lot of sales trainers and coaches talk about, well, get the customer to agree and get them to say 3 yeses, and then you can move forward and close the deal. And Chris is, he's kind of counter to that. He's saying that you kind of want to get them to say no because there's really 3 types of yeses. And he talks about the first one is a counterfeit yes, and then there's just an agreement yes, and then there's a commitment yes. And most people, when you're talking to them, they're just giving you a counterfeit yes to kind of just get the information out of you and move the conversation along. They're not really committed. And so because they're on the defense, because they know you're asking them, presupposed questions to get them to say yes. Like, hey, you like the weather today? hey, how do you feel about, how do you feel about me as your salesperson, or how do you feel about, the Houston Astros, or whatever it is. And they're really setup questions to tee them up to close. And a lot of people know that, so they're more on the defense, and they're going to say yes. They're not really committed. So Chris says that it makes a lot more sense to get the person, the counterpart, to say no. And let me explain what I mean by that. So that's the first one. And then second one is get to know. I really like this. I use it all the time when I sell people. And I'll give you an example. So we own a mortgage company here, one of the businesses that I own. And so we're selling mortgages to people. They're buying a house. And I'll ask them a question, are you against owning a home? Okay. And I'll ask them that question, hey, are you against owning a home? And they'll say, well, no, I'm not. I want to own a house. Or is it a bad idea if we help you to own a home? And so they'll say, no, of course it's not. I want to do that. So you're getting them to say no, which is actually getting them to move towards yes. So when they do say yes, they're going to be committed. Okay? And so I think it's very powerful, because a lot of times, a lot of people, they can smell bullshit on somebody. And if they think it's crap and you're just asking stupid questions to get them to say yes, then you're not going to close the deal. And you might get them all, you might think that you are, and they say they're going to move forward with you and close, but then they never close. You never hear from them again, or you can't get them on the phone. So I really like this, and I use it a lot. I think it's huge. And just, use your own imagination in the industry that you're in, and you can come up with calibrated questions to ask your counterpart or the other side that will lead them to closing the deal, by getting them to say no. You're not getting them to say no to the product. You're getting them to say no to certain things that will lead them to closing. Okay? And I gave you some examples about what I do whenever I'm trying to pitch somebody, and what I teach my team to do. So really like that a lot. The other thing that I thought was really good and really powerful is he talks about, slowing the whole deal down, slowing the process down, and relaxing. And he talks about the late night FM DJ voice, the late night radio. The guy talks real slow and low, like kind of like Barry White. You don't have to, impersonate Barry White, but slowing it down, the process. For example, I was talking to somebody today, and they're applying for a loan, and they were a very emotional, skeptical type person, and they were just all over the place asking me all kinds of questions. Well, Angelo, what if this happens with my credit? Angelo, what if this happens with, you can't get me approved, and da 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 da. And so, the first thing that comes up out of me is to emotionally get aroused with her and talk over her. And, if I do that, I'm going to kill the deal. Okay? So I need to slow it down in my mind and not let the emotions come up and just jump all over her. I need to listen to what she's saying, understand her personality type. She's an emotional type person. And then as I slow it down, I'm listening to her, then the questions that I ask her are going to be revolved around what her concerns are. Because remember, in selling and closing, that everybody has at least one hidden objective or underlying concerns. And you're not going to close the deal, like Grant Cardone talks about, unless you get that hidden objective out of them, right? And a lot of times they're talking about it, and some of the biggest times they're not. That kind of goes into the counterfeit yes. You want to get the hidden objective out of them, so that way if you overcome that, then you can truly close the sale. And for this lady, she had friends that got ripped off when they bought a house and they got screwed, and she had heard many horror stories, and so she was scared that she didn't want to get taken advantage of. So I gotta work that angle with her to make sure that she feels comfortable and that she understands the process and that she can trust me, because to move forward with her, she's going to have to trust me. So that's what I did, is I listened to what she's saying, and then I'm asking, calibrated questions. I'm going through each concern that she has and explaining the process to her. She's emotional, and she's also a practical person, so you have to respect her and say, hey, listen, well, hey, I understand that happened to your friend. Let me show you why we're number one, why we've helped over 9,000 families get into a home, and we're rated with the Better Business Bureau. We're number one in this area. This is what we specialize in. Our focus on finding the best option that we can to put you into the best financial position possible. So we're explaining the whole thing to her, and that way she feels comfortable. And we also talk about our awards. We're an award-winning lender. You know, we've won awards with USDA or FHA, and we're showing her, hey, we have all these accolades to make her feel comfortable, and we're local, and we can get it done for you and get you what you need, you know, with a program that you're looking for, with getting $10,000 of assistance to be able to buy a home. So that way you can get it with no money down, just like you want. And the other part of it is, you know, which is a huge part, is after you hear what the person says, one of the things that Chris talks about is after you're done listening and now you process the information in your brain and you understand it, you're going to summarize it, not necessarily mirror them, like, you know, mirror matching, like if they talk loud, you talk loud, or if they move their head a certain way, you move your head a certain way. But basically by having tactical empathy, which is what he calls it, tactical empathy, and essentially what this is what I explained earlier. So basically you have empathy. Doesn't mean that you share or you feel that person's emotion, but you understand their emotion. Okay, this lady was skeptical. She was concerned. And I have to understand how she feels, but I don't have to feel skeptical or concerned. But I understand it, and then I'm going to be tactical about it by empathizing with her and then summarizing with her. So let me just make sure I understand, Mrs. Jones, how you feel. You know, you had friends that have gotten taken advantage of. You're trying to find the best loan program out there. Out of 10,000 lenders in the country, you know, why do you want to go with me? And you don't want to get ripped off. You want to get the best loan. You've heard about people getting foreclosed on and getting ripped off and overpaying on interest rates and closing costs. And you got to make sure that you're dealing with somebody that's legitimate, that is trustworthy, that has the credentials to get you the best loan, and that's a professional. And the objective is by me summarizing what she says in my own words, I want to get her to agree and say, that's right. And Chris talks about that's the magic when they say that's right. Okay, not you're right, because that's different. You want them to say that's right. They're going to go, aha, that's right. So if you've done that, then you've got them over to your side to agree with you, to take it to a step further to get to the close. Okay? So, but you got to understand that's different than saying you're right. You know, what Chris says is that if somebody says you're right, they're just doing that to get you to shut your mouth because they don't really agree with you. So I would say that next time that you're in a conversation with someone and they say you're right, they are just probably in their subtext really saying, man, shut up. Okay? And so, but if they say that's right, then they actually do agree with you and they're going to go further with you in the conversation. Because remember that in order to get somebody to commit to your product or to your service to move forward with the deal, they have to be sold in their mind. They have to be influenced. And staying cool and calm and is a key part of that. If you're highly emotional and you're erratic and you got a lot of anxiety, you probably are not going to close a lot of deals. Okay? And I don't care what you sell. You gotta, this is a huge thing right here, having this, the proper voice tone. I think tone is very important, and you have to also understand the other side who you're dealing with. One thing that like Ty Lopez talks about is understanding the, he has the PACE system, whether the person is practical, action, social, or emotional, and knowing which one to use when you're talking to that particular person. Because this person was emotional, I got to talk to her a certain way versus someone that's very action oriented, that is more about accomplishment. Let's get it done. Let's make it happen. So, and that has to come into the mix too, because you can't, like Charlie Munger talks about the man with a hammer syndrome and think everybody is a nail, because they're not. There's people that are screws. There's people that are wood screws. There's all these different things, and you're going to have to adjust and tune yourself to that type of personality. So this was I think a huge takeaway for me. Some of the key things that I really enjoyed, and I always make notes about stuff that I write. And so the other thing that let's see. So going to the calibrated questions, which I really thought was important. So, when you've went over and you have trust with your counterpart, your customer, your spouse, and now that they've kind of bought into what you're doing, asking calibrated questions, meaning that questions are going to take them along the sail, along the path of where you want them to go. So calibrated questions are very, very important. And you need to be deliberate with it. Okay. I think it's very, very important that you just, I can tell you, like, how I teach my team. We have a team, we do, about $100 million a year in business, and they have a whole list of questions they have to understand their client, completely. Okay. If they miss any of those questions, then they can miss the opportunity to close the deal, because that one question they missed could be all the difference if they have that knowledge about that person, if they can get them into that product. And they have to have those questions answered so that way they can best understand what's the best product for my client. And so asking calibrated questions like, how do you think that this would benefit you? Or why haven't you done this sooner? Or what's the number one thing stopping you from moving forward? Then you're getting them to feel a certain way and move them along the path to the close. Okay, and calibrated questions are very powerful. Like you could ask them, how do you feel about working with me? How do you feel about the product? How do you feel about the company? Because usually people don't buy for usually at least one of three reasons. Whether they don't trust you, they don't trust the company, or they don't like the product. It's not a good product fit. So it's usually one of those three. It could be a multiple of those. And you got to make sure that you overcome the product, you, and the company to get somebody to move forward to close. And if you haven't done that in your pitch, and they're saying, yeah, I want to move forward, but in the back of their head they're saying, no, don't do this, right? Because something comes up in the back of their head, hey man, I ain't doing this shit, man. But they're telling you yes just to kind of move the deal along. And you're never going to close somebody like that, because they're not going to buy into it. So getting them to ask these questions, let's say that, for example, one of them, that if you want to get the objection out of them, and you could even label it. One of the things that he talks about really powerful in here is labeling, saying, hey, listen, it sounds like you're really excited, you want to move forward, but what's the thing stopping you from doing this? What is it that you don't like about it? Or what is it that you're scared of? And asking them, a question to get it out of them. What do you think is it because I'm, not local, or you think that the interest rate's too high, or you think that these supplements aren't going to help you, or is it because the price is too high? You want to get that out of the customer, because if you don't really get that out of them, then you're never going to really close them. Okay, and you got to understand what their objection is, and then get it out of them. All right. Otherwise, you're going to miss out on a ton of deals. That's one thing that Grant talks about. That if you're just you think you're playing the numbers game, and you get 100 leads, and you're only closing 5% of those because you're just waiting for deals to fall in your lap, you could be missing out on 30 to 40% more by overcoming objections and not being scared. And you need to develop thick skin and get on the phone, and be able to close people and overcome these objections. So asking calibrated questions, and one of the things that Chris talks about is using words like, what and how. Like, for example, what are you trying to accomplish? How are we supposed to do that? How can we help you to get into your home? What are your goals? Don't ask too many why questions, because it can put people on the defensive. So it's one thing that that Chris talks about. But so I really like to use what and how questions. Like, what are you trying to accomplish? By you doing this, how are we supposed to get you into your home? Or for example, like, we have a real estate online education company where we teach people how to become top producers. That's one of the things that we want to find out is, what are you trying to accomplish? What are your goals? And how can we get you there? See, then you're stimulating the brain, the mind, to think about, oh, this is how we're going to get there. This is the process. But if you ask somebody why, then they get kind of defended. So it's always good to use what and how questions when they're calibrated, because then it's going to get the person to arrive at a certain type of thinking to get them to the point that you want them. Like, for example, if you're trying to close them, and a great question is, towards the end of it is, did I miss anything? Because you want to make sure you've answered all their questions. You just don't want to rush them off the phone. I always ask, hey, is there anything else I missed? What other information can I get you? Another one that I like that Grant uses is, if let's say that we can help you and that we can get you pre-approved and help you to buy a home, is there any other reason why you change your mind? Is there anything else stopping you from moving forward? Because you want to get that out of them and find out if there is. And if there is, it could be whatever the reason is. You want to be able to get that out of them. And so, and asking those questions, will be able to lead you to, finding out what it is, and then inevitably closing the deal, because that's what you want. And you want to be able to have a product, obviously, that benefits. I mean, we're assuming that you have a product that benefits everybody. So anyway, it's a great book. I mean, there's a ton of stuff on here on negotiation. Those are the main things that I really enjoyed. The big takeaways for me, listen intently, have empathy, ask calibrated questions. Sometimes start with no, slow the process down, understand the client, ask the key questions, overcome the objections. This is really, really great stuff if you're in sales. I don't care if you're selling yachts or you're selling LaCroix or whatever you're selling. These are things that can be used that are universal and fundamental. And so, huge impact on my life, and it's boosted my sales by at least 80% since I've implemented the things in this book. And I encourage you guys to listen to it and implement all these great things. And so lastly, like I said, we're doing a giveaway today, guys. So if you're on Facebook or Instagram, just the one question I have for you is from the book, the 3 types of yeses. What are the 3 types of yeses that Chris talks about in the book that people will give you? And so if you can answer that in the stream or in the chat, you'll get free tickets. It's a gift certificate to Saltgrass Steakhouse. And we'll mail that out to you, or you can come by the office and pick it up. Just respond in the chat or send us an email. What were the 3 yeses that Chris talked about that you need to know about when you're selling somebody? And just answer that, and we'll pick a random winner and mail you out your gift certificate. That's the Saltgrass Steakhouse. There's no strings attached. You don't have to buy anything. We want to give it away. So, or you can come by the office. We're here in North Houston. You can come pick it up. So thank you so much, guys, for checking out our edition of Learning Hub. If there's any books that you want me to talk about, leave a message below on YouTube or message us. Please don't forget to follow us on all our social media, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, and all of this. So we'll see you guys again next week. Take care and have a great holiday.